For thousands of years, this single question has echoed through every culture. Did this truly happen? Was it a miracle? A misunderstood force of nature? Or a moment so strange that memory itself transformed it? Could wind really push the water back? Could fear and darkness make the human mind see something far greater than what actually happened? And what if time didn't flow normally that night? What if perception changed? What if the people who witnessed this scene experienced a reality very different from ours? In this episode, we follow the story to its roots. We examine the land, we examine the science, and we explore the human mind and its power to reshape a single moment into a timeless legend. If you're ready, let's step into the mystery. Before we go deeper, if you enjoy exploring time, consciousness, and the hidden layers of reality, consider subscribing. Now, let's continue. The story of the Red Sea has lived in human memory for thousands of years, and all this time it has carried one simple question. Was this real? To some, it was a miracle. To others, a rare natural event that was misunderstood and retold for generations. But one fact stands out. This scene isn't tied to a single belief. It appears across three major traditions, as if the memory itself refused to fade. So why did this moment leave such a deep mark? Why did it survive for centuries while countless other events simply vanished? In this episode, we step closer to the heart of the story. We look at the land. We examine the natural forces that could shape such a moment. And we explore the human mind. How fear, hope, and the pressure of the unknown can transform a simple event into a lasting legend. Because sometimes, to understand a story, you must first understand the world in which it was seen. When we say Red Sea, most people picture a vast body of water. But in ancient times, the coastline was completely different. Shallow lagoons, marshes, and shifting sandbanks covered the northern regions. For years, historians and geographers have debated one question. Did this event happen in the deep sea, or in a much shallower, narrow region near the coastline? Many researchers believe the crossing took place in the far north, a place where strong winds can push water away for several hours at a time. Modern measurements confirm this. In that region, a steady wind blowing from the right angle can make the water pull back far beyond what the eye expects. Scientists call this effect the wind set-down phenomenon. It's simple physics. Wind pushes water in one direction, and the shoreline opens for a short period. Now imagine standing there thousands of years ago, the sea pulling away, a narrow path forming. No scientific explanation, only fear, only urgency, only darkness, and the sound of wind. To us, it may look like nature, but to the people who witnessed it, it must have felt like the world itself was shifting beneath their feet. To understand the story, we must first understand the land on which the story unfolded. For decades, scientists have tried to understand whether a scene like the Red Sea crossing could actually happen in nature. And today, the answer is clearer than ever. Yes. Under the right conditions, water can pull back dramatically. This isn't speculation. Computer models, field measurements, and real-world observations all show the same pattern. When strong winds blow from a consistent direction for long enough, the water level drops, sometimes by meters, sometimes far enough to expose land that normally stays hidden. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, the effect is striking. A flat seabed appears. The water forms walls at the sides, A narrow, walkable corridor opens, and then, just as suddenly, the water returns. Fast, loud, with enormous force. To someone living thousands of years ago without scientific language, the retreat might look like a miracle, and the violent return might feel like the closing of a supernatural gate. Science explains the mechanics, but the experience, the sound, the fear, the urgency, belongs to the human mind. Sometimes the event is simple, but the memory of it is anything but. To understand what people saw that night, we can't look only at the wind, the water, or the shape of the coastline. We have to look at the human mind. In moments of fear or danger, the brain shifts into survival mode. Time slows down. Sounds sharpen. Movements feel larger and more dramatic than they truly are. Scientists call this perceptual amplification, a natural response that helps the mind focus on what it believes is life-threatening. Now imagine the scene. A dark night, a terrified crowd, rushing wind, water moving in ways they have never seen before. Even a small retreat of the sea could appear enormous, as if the water itself was splitting apart. To someone standing on that shore, the moment would feel unreal, not because nature changed, but because their perception shifted under pressure. Fear creates meaning. Uncertainty magnifies it, and the mind fills in the gaps with symbols, images, and emotion. Maybe the water pulled back just a little. Maybe the wind shaped the waves in strange patterns, but for the people living that moment, that shift became a turning point. Sometimes it isn't the world that changes shape, it's our perception of it, and perception can leave a deeper mark than reality itself. Throughout history, small moments often grow into something far larger, not because people exaggerate them, but because memory transforms them. When a community experiences fear, hope, or sudden relief, the emotional weight of that moment overshadows the physical details. Scientists call this collective memory filtering. The mind erases what feels unimportant. It keeps only the pieces charged with emotion. Picture the scene again. A brief retreat of water, a sudden path appearing, people rushing forward, shouting, confusion, darkness, wind, survival. Over time, the exact details fade. Only the dramatic shape of the moment remains. One generation passes it down, the next refines it, and eventually a real event, maybe small, maybe ordinary, evolves into a story that feels much bigger than what actually happened. Not because anyone lied, but because emotion edits reality. This is how myths form. This is how legends grow, not from fantasy, but from the human need to give meaning to the moments that change us. The Red Sea story survived because it wasn't just a physical event, it was an emotional one. And emotions travel further than facts ever do. In moments of fear, the human brain behaves differently. It doesn't record reality second by second, it records intensity. When fear rises, the brain processes information faster. Outside events seem to slow down, movements stretch, sounds deepen. A few seconds feel like minutes. Scientists call this time dilation. Now imagine the scene that night. A rushing crowd, a dark sky, wind cutting through the air, water pulling back in a way no one had ever seen. In that state, the mind doesn't just observe, it magnifies. A small retreat of water can feel enormous. A brief opening can seem like a long, clear path. Every second becomes heavy, charged, emotionally amplified. Maybe the sea pulled back only for a short moment. Maybe the path wasn't as wide as the legends suggest, but in the mind of someone running, panicked, desperate for escape. That moment stretches. It becomes larger than the event itself. Because trauma doesn't record details, it records impact. And sometimes what we remember is not what happened, but what it felt like. When time bends in the mind, the world bends with it. Across ancient cultures, water has always carried a deeper meaning. It represents the unknown, fear, chaos, transformation, and sometimes rebirth. So when water suddenly pulls back, people don't see only a physical change. They see a sign, a boundary opening, a path forming where moments earlier there was none. This symbolism appears everywhere, in myths, legends, and sacred stories, a line dividing two worlds, darkness giving way to light, an ending turning into a beginning. In the Red Sea narrative, the retreat of water becomes more than an event. It becomes a moment of transition, a crossing from fear to hope, from confinement to possibility, a doorway between what was and what could be. And maybe that's why the story endured, not because of how the water moved, but because of what the moment meant. A path opening in the middle of chaos, a chance that shouldn't exist, a moment where the world seemed to shift just long enough to let someone through. Sometimes the power of a story is not in the event itself, but in the meaning people draw from it. And meaning travels further than any wave. History doesn't give us a clear answer. Science shows how the water could retreat. Geography reveals the places where such a moment is possible. And psychology explains why the human mind might turn a brief event into something unforgettable. But even with all of that, the question remains, what did the people on that shore actually experience? Maybe the wind pushed the water back. Maybe the path opened for only a short time. Maybe fear amplified every sound, every shadow, every movement. Or maybe it was a combination of nature, timing, and human perception all converging in the same moment. We may never know the exact details, but we do know this: the mind doesn't store events, it stores emotions. And an event charged with fear, hope, and the possibility of escape can grow into something far larger than the moment itself. So perhaps the real question is not, did the sea truly part? But rather, what opened inside the people who lived through that night? This episode opened just one door, but the darkness holds many more. In the next chapter, we will follow another ancient scene, a moment described in old texts, mirrored across cultures, and still debated by science today. A moment that may reveal how much we truly understand and how much remains hidden. If you want to keep walking into the deeper layers of these mysteries, consider subscribing. The next episode is Waiting in the Shadows.